So if I were to say something just truly off the walls, bonkers, crazy, would a therapist be required to tell the police?
That's a really great question. So if you're talking about something criminal or an act that's been committed, no. A therapist is not required to tell the police.
Even criminal?
Even criminal, yep. I was at a training a long time ago. It was an ethics and legal training, and one of the questions the presenter gave was if a client came in and talked about hurting somebody or ending somebody's life, would we have to report it? And the answer was no. There's no harm to the public if something's already been done. So
if it's been done, but if let's say I'm sitting and I'm ruminating and I'm like, I'm going to kill somebody.
Then there's a harm to the public, and then it's reportable.
That's kind of it's one thing if I'm going to say I'm going to kill somebody, like that is very clear, but harm to the public, that's a heck of it. So I imagine you must have spent the whole time going over exactly what that means.
Yeah, there's so many fine details to it, but therapists, laws change state to state, but so everyone needs to be aware of their laws in their state. But if somebody is planning something versus thinking about something, those are two very different things. So if you're planning to hurt somebody, that would be reportable. If you think about it, that's very different. We have lots of thoughts that don't lead us to actions.
So the old, I have a friend who's, is that enough of a fig leaf for you? Who I'm like, a friend of mine is planning on killing his wife, No, a therapist will try and tease out, like, is this really a friend or is it you? And if you're saying a friend and it's not you, you're good. But it is almost up to the discretion of the therapist.
Yeah, and therapists typically get to know their clients very, very well. So, and at the beginning of therapy, a therapist always identifies, what's within a threshold where something's reportable and not. And there's always room to ask questions. And the goal for a therapist is to have true therapeutic alliance with somebody so that they can talk about real thoughts and real feelings while also understanding when an implication is at bay or not.
Welcome to the show, where we explore the who, what, where, how, and why of the extraordinary people who define our north of normal metro. I'm Conrad Fargo, and this is the Fargo Five. Today we have Brittany Schank, the owner of Solace Counseling. Brittany, you were on the Facebooks and you said, I want to be on a podcast. And of course, me being so well connected and having so many friends, they all tagged me in the Fargo Five and said you should be on. So you reached out. This was a couple months ago, I believe.
Yep.
We got you on the calendar. And here you are.
Here I am.
Here you are. So why don't you take 30, 60 seconds, just kind of tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Well, it's Veterans Day today, so I think appropriate to say I'm a veteran.
Oh.
I've served for 19 years, so I have 1 year left till I can hit my retirement. So that is very fun.
So you're still in.
I am.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah.
I have a little bit less than a year. I can retire in July. So I'm in the Air National Guard. I have 4 sweet babies. I have a 10, 8, 3, and 1 year old. So home is super busy and beautiful. And then I am also the owner of Solace Counseling, which is a counseling practice where we do mental health therapy for kids, adults, families, and couples.
So you've got a broad range, and I'll have you really just pull up on that microphone. It's been a few weeks, just like really close because I'm having a hard time. You've got a real great ASMR kind of voice. I don't know if you know, but it's got like this nice whispery quality. But it's not picking up as much as I wish. What was I gonna say? I forget where I was going with that. You are in the thick of it with kids.
Yes.
And then you have a wide range of clients that you serve. So it must not be just you?
No.
Okay.
We have 12 clinicians that are at our office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have a really, really good group of therapists at our office. And then we have 4 admin staff at our office that are really great as well.
That's a good size number of people. So the circles that I swim in is a lot of, small business, solopreneurs, very bootstrappy. Even when people come in with employees, maybe they have 1 or 2, but a lot of solo practitioner type of things, a lot of alternative medicine type of people come in through here, chiropractors, naturopaths, those kinds of things.
Yes.
I'm getting the sense that maybe this is more of your traditional line of medicine and science where you have like 12 licensed regular old psychologists, right? Is that the case?
Yeah, we don't have any psychologists on staff. I'd like to say we started there, though.
Okay.
It started with just me. Solace Counseling opened 7 years ago, and it was just yours truly.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm going to want to know. Okay, and so I mean, that is the show, and I want to hear that story.
Yes.
But I like to do... I mean, and it is, maybe it's just a preference thing, but when you're like watching the show and they start with the final scene and then they start over, that's always like, it hooks me. It's kind of annoying, but also hooks me. Yeah. So bring that to the show. Tell us first the final scene where you're at right now. It's not a bunch of psychologists. You obviously have a degree in psychology.
My degree is in social work. So everybody that provides therapy has either a master's degree in social work or counseling. Oh. You can also be a psychologist. That's a doctorate degree. But in psychology, you have to get a doctorate degree to do therapy. You can also do some other things with that, though, like testing and stuff. So right now, everybody is the 12 people I talked about are mental health therapists, and they're either have their master's in social work or their master's in counseling and be able to do that.
You also have a master's.
That's correct. Yep, in social work. Yep.
Okay, but not okay. So it's easier to get through the door and start actually doing the work by avoiding the doctorate, because if you have a master's in psychology, that's not sufficient.
Correct. That's right.
That's really interesting.
It's a big misconception, and truly, if I could go to the kids going to college that are going for psychology and just say like, hey, what are you going for? Is it therapy? Because maybe there's a different route if it's therapy and you don't want to do the testing side of it. So but a really big misconception.
Well, and then even in a master's degrees, you don't even necessarily have to have the bachelor in the associated master's. You can often jump. So almost anybody with some what kind of bachelor's? Did you have a bachelor's in social work, or what are the...
Yes, I did. So it's you have great questions. It's like you do this or something. But so there actually isn't even a bachelor's degree for counseling that I'm aware of. So you have to get it in something, your bachelor's in something else if you're going to go the counseling route. Most people get it in like social work or psychology. They might get their bachelor's degree in human development and family science. Typically, it's something related to the field, but it doesn't have to be.
Wow.
There is a social work bachelor's. People go on to work at doing county case management with kids in foster care.
And that's when you say social work, I'm thinking working for the government.
Yes, that's what everyone thinks of.
Right? And is that the majority of the people with that degree are doing that, or not so much? Or
if you have your bachelor's, yes, that's kind of the only option is case management type work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
A social worker going on to get their master's degree in social work is probably looking to do therapy.
Huh.
So, but either field, if you get your master's in social work or your master's in counseling, your bachelor's can kind of be in any field. There's some expedited programs. If your bachelor's is in social work and then you get your master's in social work, you kind of get your master's a little bit faster then, by a semester probably.
Yeah.
But for the most part, most people are not going to have a bachelor's in social work and then go on to counseling, or counseling doesn't have a bachelor's, so that's not an option.
So as the owner of a 12-man operation, are they each working full? Are they all full time? So you've got a lot. I mean, that's a lot. That's like 500 hours worth of work happening. Where's this located at?
Yeah, right by Valley Christian Counseling and right behind the old Chuck E. Cheese. Most people know where that is.
Yeah.
Or what's the bar on 13th Avenue that used to be there for a long time?
There used to be there. Bucks. They just tore it down.
Bucks, right by Bucks. Yeah.
Wow, what a place to put therapy. Okay,
yeah.
No, I know where that is. Over in those. Well, Chris, I told you I do commercial real estate.
Yes.
And so you're right in those gold mark. And since I mentioned I'm real estate, I'm legally required to say that I am licensed at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Premier Properties. That's part of the licensing requirement.
Sure.
So anyhow, I do that. I've been in there many times. Are you guys on the first floor? I think I walked in and almost leased something in there, because now that you say it, I think I've seen you guys there before.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was 500 hours a week. I mean, that's a good sized business.
Yes, we're on the main floor and a little bit of the upstairs.
Yeah, and the counselors that you currently have on staff, so what's your day-to-day look like? Are you still giving therapy, or so it's you and 5 others, or you're one of the 5?
I'm one of the 12 therapists.
The 12.
Yep, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, one of the 12.
And I do still provide therapy. I provide it on a part-time.
Yeah.
I have decreased the number of face-to-face clients I have.
How could you if you're running the business?
I know.
I mean, that's a whole job in and of itself, especially 12 people. And that's why I skipped the
I
number.
know.
That's a lot of people to manage.
I know.
Are they relatively independent, or is this like a JOB? You're making a schedule for them? how much are you putting hands on and how much are they just kind of under you?
Yep. So they're all employees. All of them are full-time with the exception of one.
Wow.
We have one part-time clinician in Bismarck. So we have a very small Bismarck office. The rest of them are in Fargo. All of them are full-time. They're all employees. They're really great people, really highly skilled people. We have one clinical lead and myself, and we kind of split the team up for who we supervise. And
this is fascinating. And it must mostly be paid for via insurance.
Correct.
That has to be the number one. So again, I'm surprised that you do any therapy at all, because my understanding, and you can maybe share, when you run a practice that takes insurance, especially of a medical nature, like you just spend all your time filling out paperwork. Like, is that your day to day right now? But when you're not doing therapy, you're doing insurance, or what is your day? Like, you wake up 7 a.m, drive over there, and then what? Like, what does your day look like?
Well, it's before 7 because I have a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
So I'm up before then.
Yeah.
But so I would say on an average day, I see 2 to 3 of my own clients a day. The rest of the day is full of answering emails and kind of putting out fires, whatever that fire looks like for the day. I also do supervision of some of the clinicians, a person who has a lower license level. I don't know how else to say it right now.
Yeah.
Requires supervision of a higher licensed person. So I do supervision, working with the admin team on any fires that they're dealing with, and then my kids get brought to me and I go home and be a mom.
Yes.
Yes.
On top of all that, and you said 4 kids.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I got 3 myself.
Oh,
And
cool.
they're 7, 5, and 1.
Okay,
so
same ages.
I know
Yep.
what and now you're on my zoo list. So just so you know, I'm going to be texting you like once a month to be like, hey, you want to go to the zoo?
Yeah, you got it.
What are you doing today with Veterans Day, by the way? It's now that it's no school. They get a lot of days off.
They get so many days off. My kids are actually in school, though, and they had a Veterans Day program this morning that I got to go to. So that's how I started my day.
What school are your kids in?
They go to Oak Grove.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so they do whatever they want over there.
Yeah.
But it was just a really special.
But they're open.
They're open. Yep.
Okay,
Yep. They're open, and they
another reason to consider private school.
We love it. If anybody wants to talk about Oak Grove, I'm happy to talk about it.
I might want to.
Yes, it is. It was not part of the plan. When it became part of the plan, it was evident it needed to be part of the plan. But there was a sweet veteran sitting in front of me, and they always play the same video every year. And this video is essentially a video saying, like, thank you for your sacrifice, and remember this was about peace, not war. And a Vietnam veteran was sitting in front of me just uncontrollably sobbing, and his wife was rubbing his back. And I thought, what a special way to start Veterans Day morning. So it was a really cool experience this morning. But so, yep, the kids are at school today, and my Veterans Day looks pretty similar to most other days. Go to the kids' normally it's chapel on Tuesdays. Today it was the Veterans Day program, and then get to the office and get things to start going. But this is a special part of my day that normally wouldn't happen either. So I'm really glad to be here.
I'm hoping it's fun for you. So I kind of get the picture. You're running this big operation, lots of people to manage, lots of insurance, emails. You're even still doing the therapy. You're still having kids. But where did this all start? Where did it all start? When did you say to yourself, I'm going to be a therapist? So you went to school for the degree of what do we call it? Social work.
Yep.
And did you go that with the mind of I'm going to do therapy, or what? So first, let's talk about getting the social work. Why did you fall into that degree?
So I actually got my first degree in criminal justice.
Yeah.
And I met my husband when I was 18, and we were working at Sears catching shoplifters. We were both doing the criminal justice thing, and so cool that we're together and married when we met so long ago. But back then, I didn't know what I wanted to do. My childhood I was always an achiever, but childhood was kind of rough. There wasn't a whole lot of guidance around me. And so I had made the decision, I think I'm going to join the military. A friend talked about it, brought me for her to talk to her recruiter. Yeah. I was just along for support. And I was like, hey, this seems pretty cool. And biggest thing is I think they'll pay for my schooling if I join here. That's really all I cared about. I was like, we're broke. We don't have money for schooling. So it was a cool opportunity to get my schooling paid for. So I joined the military and picked criminal justice, thinking it fit. And I got my criminal justice degree, started catching shoplifters, and every time we'd pull somebody back in the back office, I would say, like, can't we just let them go? Because I'd hear their story. And I'm really competitive. So finding a person shoplifting and catching them was so fun to me. But we'd bring them back, and my heart broke for them when they were like, we didn't have any money and I needed the shoes for my kids.
Well, now you said, so I want to slow down because you said something that hooks me.
Yeah.
And you said having a rough background.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more? I mean, as a therapist, I'm sure you know, like the childhood situation is going to be very informative. Like, can you share in what way it was rough?
Yeah. So I grew up with a lot of mental illness in my family, but I think it was not known that mental illness existed in my family. So my parents are wonderful. My siblings are wonderful, but there was a lot of chaos in my childhood. I had a brother who made a lot of criminal mistakes growing up. And so the police were around a lot. There just wasn't a lot of support. Everybody was very, very stressed out. And it was kind of fend for yourself, really. Yeah. And I'm thankful on one hand for that, because I've learned to do a lot of really hard things and say, like, I don't know that there's anything I couldn't do if I really wanted to. But on the other hand, it's very lonely.
So maybe not necessarily in an economic sense, was it?
Oh, economically too. Oh, yeah. We were very, very poor. I remember the best day was, you knew payday was here because the fridge got full. But it was like, who's going to be the first to eat all the chips and dip that we got, you know? Yeah. So financially, there wasn't a whole lot there. A lot of notices of like electricity is getting disconnected, or there wasn't a whole lot. That by far wasn't the hardest part, though. It was like the lack of emotion, or
lack of emotion,
Yeah, lack of protection. Probably it was just like.
But your parents were together.
Yes, my parents were together.
That's at least you had that going for you.
Yes.
I also grew up very poor, and so it's interesting always the stories of poverty and what it's like growing up that way, because I think people who grow up with wealth or with security, they have no sense of like, well, no, you could have just nothing, or things could be this way, things could be that way. And then what I find interesting, or what seems clear to me, is that you are lacking probably some discipline or some structure with chaos. Chaos is usually downstream of a lack of structure and discipline, as is poverty. And so, you joined the military because it helps, but probably gave you that structure you're looking for. And then also criminal justice, that's being a cop, right? Like, so you're going to be a cop, but you just didn't have the heart for it.
Yep. Nope.
And you want to call people out. You want to call people out, but you don't want to punish them.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. And, I've never thought of that, but that probably was an attempt to like create some structure around me. I think the best way to say is like I grew up acting like a parent. Like I was always a parent.
You were your own.
I never got to be a kid.
You were your own parent.
Yes,
you
that's exactly right.
You were your own parent because nobody else was there to give you the structure.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and I never thought about it that way. That's every time somebody says that on the show, an angel gets its wings.
Yeah.
So high five to that. That was awesome. I'm glad I got that in there. But so you joined the military. What was that experience like? I mean, especially.
It's been great.
As a there's a lot of stories like as a female in the military, they say they try to make things helpful, but I've heard some real horror stories.
Sure.
Like was it challenging for you, or you've been grateful for the whole experience? Is there anything that changed the way you saw or moved you into therapy, or how might that have been formative?
I don't know that anything moved me into therapy. My experience has been a wonderful experience. And I think a big part of that is when I joined, I had the same supervisor I had my whole career. She just retired a couple years ago. Oh. And she has always been like a mom figure to me. Yeah. She protected me. She made sure nobody messed with me. Yeah. And she always had my best interest at heart. And
that's wonderful.
I think my experience probably would have been way different if I didn't have Sam leading me in that way. So I appreciate that. I got my schooling paid for, so I didn't have a whole bunch of school debt.
That's great. Where did you go to school?
I went to NDSU for my bachelor's degrees and then UND for my master's degree.
Yeah, so not terribly expensive schools anyhow.
Nope. Yep.
Better than being saddled with school, student loans.
Yeah, student loan debt. You're right. Yeah. So my military experience has been wonderful. I've learned a lot about leadership, and I found ways to be able to do some of the things I love. So, for example, sexual assault, as we know, has been rampant in the military.
Yes.
And so they created positions for people who are victim advocates, for people who have gone through that. And I got to be one of those and meet some really incredible people who have gone through some really hard things and
That's wonderful.
use some of the skills I have. So I think I was able to just somehow find some niches that were true to who I was and really continue to like fulfill a purpose in the military. I didn't just go and do a job I didn't want to do and kind of suck it up, if you will. So it's been a really good experience. I'm ready to be done. I'm ready for like the deployments or worry of deployments or the fitness test. I'm ready for all that to be done, but it'll be a piece of life that I definitely miss, and I'm glad that I did.
The other thing they say about the military, and I was actually advised against it for this reason, is that you get moved around a lot. I mean, are you from Fargo originally?
Yep.
And you're still in Fargo.
Yep.
Have you been kicked around a bunch, or you were blessed to stay?
That's right. I joined the Air National Guard, and it is one of the best kept secrets of the best kept secrets of the military, the saddest kept secrets, because it's a really great place. But in the Air National Guard, you get to pick the base that you're at, where active duty is where you do move around, and they tell you you're going to move around. In the Air National Guard, you pick your base for the Air Force side, certainly. So I've just chosen to stay here, and I've been able to create a business and know with certainty that I can stay here. Now, can I get deployed? Yes, I can certainly get deployed, but I know that like my home base will always be here. So
deployment of the National Guard internationally seems a little strange to me as well. Is that something that gets your hackles up as well? Or, I mean, do you have, I'm not trying to get political here, but it seems almost that button shouldn't do that. Is that been something that's been a fear of yours? And you've never had to be deployed? Have you had other people get deployed and it's like lucky for me, or what's that experience like, having that hanging over your head? Yeah,
great questions. So one of the things about the Air National Guard is they can get called by the state or they can get called by the president. So state, if there was a national emergency like flooding, I can't remember what year we flooded and everybody was called to state active duty is what it was called, to help the community with flooding. So we can get called by the state, but we can also get called by the president to go in the Middle East during some of the stuff that was going on with the Middle East. There's people always deployed. So you're dually allowed to be called up essentially for that. California wildfires is another big one that guardsmen get called up for state jobs or state duties. So all of that's a possibility. I have been deployed before. I've been deployed to home station. And what that means is like deployed to my own base. And it just depends on the mission of your base. For Air Force, that's typically aircraft. Some form of aircraft is your mission.
So can you fly?
Nope, I can't fly. Okay. My kids ask me that all the time. I'm like, I wish I could say yes. That answer is no.
Okay.
But so I've been called to home station. And I don't want to get too far into it. But so I've been deployed, but locally. Okay.
Yeah. And why don't we, so, you're in the military, you're getting the degree in criminal justice. Where does it, and you're catching these people, you say, I don't want to get them in trouble. Where does it become? I'm going to do therapy. Like, where does that come?
Where'd the transition come? Yeah. So, yes, I was telling my husband, usually it was my husband, can we just let him go? That's actually a rule. You're not allowed to let people go after you've caught them. And so I just knew my heart wasn't quite in the right place. It was fun. It was invigorating, but I knew it wasn't quite in the right place. And so I was already starting to look for like, where's my niche? Like, where do I need to go with this degree that feels a little bit more right? And actually, my cousin was messaging me on Facebook, and she was like, hey, have you ever thought of social work? And I was like, I have actually never heard of social work before.
Yeah.
And what do they do? And so she told me, they usually work for the county doing foster care, CPS type stuff. And I was like, hey, that feels really aligned. Like that uses the criminal justice side and the helper side together. So I literally went back to school for social work because that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to work for CPS.
CPS?
Yes. Yep. Child protection is what I was like, you can care for people while also holding them accountable. So I went back to school, and that was my goal all throughout college. And it just so happened that one of my teachers was one of the higher ups for child protection in Cass County.
Really?
I know, it was so crazy. And so I really sucked up to her because I really wanted a job after school. And so I finished my degree and I applied there and I got a position.
So you worked for CPS?
Yep, I did.
Wow.
Yep. I worked on the case management side. So how it works is CPS goes out and investigates and essentially says, yes, this child needs to be removed. They come in, they there's a court case. The judge says, yes, they should have been removed. Then they move over to case management. That was my side, where they're in foster care then. And we work with the families of how do we repair this so this kid can go home. And it was a cool, awesome, rewarding and intense job.
So you never did the side where they're going after parents or checking up on reports, or is that was also stuff that
Absolutely.
You had to do?
Yep.
You know, I heard about CPS way back before I even had kids, because they have always struck me, and so I've always had like a deep I fear two departments of the government, the IRS and CPS, because it strikes me. You know, I say we don't talk about, I'm not trying to make political statements. I'm just making statements of fact here. It strikes me that both of those departments work as judge and jury. Like, there doesn't seem to be a lot of oversight. Is that a fair characteristic? I mean, I live in fear that, like, because my understanding on both the IRS and CPS is like, whomever gets assigned just gets to look at it, say, yep, this is how things are, and then you go to jail. Like, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, it is
terrifying.
That's
terrifying. That's a lot of power. Is it the case? Like, do you feel like when you were on the inside, you know, maybe it's difficult to talk about this, but like, do you feel like, oh no, actually there's way more paperwork than you would imagine, and there's way more oversight, and look, I have people caught dead to rights and they still get away, so you really got to be like, or what is it like? Yeah,
that's a really interesting perspective, and probably because of that experience, I mean, I don't want my kids taken away either. They're the most precious things in the world to me. I also don't want the IRS coming after me, so both of those can stay far away.
Yeah.
But very fair and like good to hear about just how much fear there is around that. I can tell you my experience while I was there, how it felt to me. And probably because I was a case manager, and I tried to do everything I could with the right heart. And I think, like, at the end of the day, I have to answer to my actions.
Yeah.
Also, to be really real, there's so many kids in foster care right now, like, at that time, at least, I was like, we don't want
You're not
your
looking
kids.
To add to the supply.
No, we do not want. And as a therapist, it's
it's kind of a messed up.
Yeah, like, we don't want them. Please do everything you can to have them. But also, like, let's create an environment where they can feel loved, because they want to likely be home with their parents as well.
Yeah.
So I can't speak for everybody, and does some of that stuff happen? I'm sure it does. But I worked with a lot of really good-hearted people, and I think we were all in the same of, like, we just want the best for the kids.
Well, you know, when we're, you know, the wife and I, we sit and scroll on Twitter or whatever, and you see these outrageous news, whatever. She says, look what's happening. And I go, that's why it's news. You know, there's always going to be outside edge cases, but what you're saying is, like, people, it's not a bunch of monsters out there.
No.
So you were doing that CPS work, and we still haven't gotten to where did it turn into therapy? Because in a way, you were administering some therapy to the kids in a sense, or not so much, or the family therapy in a way, or
there's like a pretty black and white line when you have your bachelor's degree that you need to stay in your lane. You should not be doing therapy. So that's really where it came up. I was bringing it is so vivid to me. I was bringing a kiddo to, like, his 8th foster home, and this goes back to what I was saying of, like, I don't think they want your kids. They have so many kids. But I was bringing him to, like, his 8th foster home. He kept we call it, like, blowing out of foster homes, where something was happening and the foster home was like, he can't stay. And my heart broke for this kid of, like, what am I supposed to say to him about, we're going to another home, buddy, and bad things have happened to you, and I'm sorry, but here are the consequences to what's happening. It was so hard. And I remember thinking as I was driving him, I wish I knew what to say to him to help him process through this. And that was when I started thinking, like, I think there's, like, another calling again. Like, I think there's a more that happens. And I applied to grad school at UND. And UND at that time, at least, had an online program and an in-person program. And the online program was very difficult to get into. And oftentimes it seemed that they weren't offering it to people in the local proximity that could get there. And so I got a letter back from UND after I applied, and it said, you have not been accepted into the online program. However, we would love to have you for the in-person program. And I was just ticked. I was like, this is so stupid. I wanted the online program.
And what year was this?
My daughter was 2 at that time, so it would have been like 2017.
Okay.
And my husband came home from work and I was like, I didn't get accepted to grad school. And he was like, okay, no big deal. And he comes back and he's like, well, it looks like you did get accepted. And I was like, yeah, but it's the in-person program. He's like, you are not going to skip over this because it's the in-person program. And that was kind of the validation I think I needed of like, oh yeah, this is a big deal. I can do the online program. So I did the online program while working at Cass County part-time. So continuing to do foster care case management part-time, got my master's degree, and immediately after getting my master's degree, well, I guess during it, I did my internship at a local agency that specialized in doing therapy with kids in the foster care system.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really cool internship. And then right after my internship and after I got my degree, they had, so graciously, they were like, they didn't hire pre-licensed people. When you first get your license here, we call that pre-licensed. And I remember my supervisor saying, well, if you want a job, figure out a proposal and propose it to the CEO. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I literally created a job, proposed it to the CEO, and she's like, you're hired.
And what size organization was this?
This was, I don't want to say the name because they're not in existence anymore, but I would say in total, there was probably 500 employees there. But the counseling program was a very small program. There was probably 5 therapists there at the time, all of them fully licensed.
But there's 500 people and they're all fitting inside the box and you're asking for a special little spot just for you.
Yeah, be special. And so they did. They hired me and I essentially like created the training program, and other therapists followed that were pre-licensed people that were looking to do that work, and they got to go into the training program too. So that was really a cool experience, and I got to continue the foster care work in a therapeutic way.
Yeah. And so as you're getting licensed, and you're doing the therapy, when did you decide to hang the shingle out on your own? Yeah,
so the agency I was working for, I just kind of referenced it. Things were starting to like go downhill. People were trying to do a good job, but you could tell financially things were not stable. Yeah. And so I had gotten my full licensure then, and my husband and I had a lot of conversations of like, I don't think this is going to be sustainable much longer. And that was kind of the last. I went to a training and I had their debit card to use, and the debit card got declined. And that was the very last, like, I think this is actually starting to sink. And so that was kind of one of the last pushes. There were a couple of things that happened during that time frame, but that was probably one of the last pushes where I was like, hey, if we're going to do this, we need to do this. But now at this time I had 2 kids. And in the therapy world, it can be really hard to find work-life balance, meaning like most therapists are going to a job, they're seeing 8 clients a day with a half-hour lunch break and then going home, and it's really easy to burn out like that. Yeah. And I really wanted to be there for my kids. I wanted to be able to go to the Veterans Day program on Tuesday morning. And but I'm also a hard worker, so we were trying to figure out a way, how can Brittany work hard, but also have some flexibility? And my husband had owned a lawn care business at that time that he had opened a couple years prior. Yeah. And I was like, well, you know how to open an LLC, right? And so we just kind of used some of the things that he had just done. And we were like, let's try it. And if it just floats us for a couple of years, then it floats us for a couple of years and we can get through the infancy phase of these 2 little kids. And so that's where it started. I got a super cheap office to rent that was $300 a month because I was like, I think we could pay that if this business failed. I think we could scrounge up I will donate plasma to get the $300 a month. And I used to tell clients when they would call, I would say, the outside looks really sketchy. Just make your way to the inside and it'll look nicer then.
It was the same place that you're at now.
No, it was different. It was, Subway on 13th Avenue. Those like Jeffrey's office built back there. Yeah, one of those. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. We didn't even have a sign on the outside of the building, and that's where it started. It was just me at that time. And the days were beautiful. They were slow back then. In between clients, I would like take a nap on my couch sometimes. Those were really beautiful days back then.
And so what was your first, what was it like getting your first clients? Like, did you bring them over from a previous venture, or what was, when you hung out that shingle in the very first time, like there's got to be a lot of imposter syndrome. I feel, like, what am I even doing? Yeah. Am I talking these people into something crazy?
Yes.
Like, what was that?
Can I even do this? Yeah, I actually didn't answer the phone when the first client called. I let it go to voicemail because I was like, what do I even say when do I say Solace Counseling? Then what do I say after that? So I literally didn't answer the first phone call, and I went on YouTube and Googled how to professionally answer a phone call because I did not know what to say. And I literally looked at scripts of how do counselors answer the phone. Yeah. I was so scared. So probably didn't get that client, but slowly but surely. And it's like, like, that is what owning a business is, or doing these things is you're shaky and you don't feel grounded. You feel way out of your comfort zone. You're wondering how you got here. And that's what owning a business is not knowing how to answer the phone.
Well, as I told you, one of the things I do is consulting for small businesses and people starting up. And that's what I usually tell them, because they seem to think, you're going to start, you're going to hang out a shingle, you're going to do a really good job, and that's going to be this huge success because everybody's going to know you and love you. And it's like, no, you're going to survive a series of never-ending tiny disasters and just like day after day, brick by brick. That's why like I'm not a big like goal orient. I'm a systems, because it's like, oh, you're going to go here, nice story. Like 800 things are going to change between now and then. So what was it? I mean, fast forwarding, we're already 45 minutes in. I apologize.
That's okay. This is great.
This has been a fantastic conversation. We got maybe another 10 minutes before we got to move to the music here. But what I'm interested in, because it's one thing to have your Jeffries Park, and it's by yourself and you're just kind of taking people scheduling. What was it like when you decided to bring people under your wing, have employees? Because that's, I often say it's, again, I do that consulting for small businesses, and I tell people, the one thing changing from an employee into being self-employed is that you leave the world of certainty. We're like, oh, for sure, I'm going to show up here. I'm going to get paid for this number of hours because I was there for that number of hours, right? And employees take that for granted. When you go out on your own, it's like, I'm going to do all this work and maybe I'll get paid, right? It's like when you see a successful business owner making a bunch of money, it's like, oh man, he's so lucky. It's like, well, kind of.
Yeah.
Like kind
maybe
of.
right now.
Like,
you should have seen 2 years ago.
You should have seen him. It's like gambling with much better odds, right? Like I don't walk into the casino, but I bet on myself. But when you take an employee, now you are guaranteed, because, I mean, what was it like when because you got to take care of them. You got to promise them, like, what was your situation like? What were you able to promise? What was it like expanding? How fast did you take on the other ones?
Yeah, fair. I remember saying to my husband, Landon, I was like, so now what this means is I have to make sure they make at least minimum wage, but I do not have to. That's really what you walk into. And you're right, that uncertainty of like, what is this going to look like? And we have never taken out loans for our business. Like, it has always been, you can only get what you can afford. And probably out of fear of like, well, you can only go so far down if you don't take out loans, But our first employee actually came to us because, like I was talking about earlier, if you're not fully licensed, you need somebody who is to provide supervision. And so somebody I had met previously had come to me and asked if I would provide her supervision. And I was like, well, I just got my license. I'm not sure that you actually want me to do that, but I'm happy to like play this game with you.
How far in was this? This was
about 2.5 years after I started doing therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you get your full license about 2 years after you start doing therapy.
Oh, really? So you weren't fully licensed when you hung out your shingle?
No, I was. You have to be. So I hung out my shingle after about 2.5 years of doing therapy. Oh, okay. But I had just gotten my full licensure.
I see.
And so this person came to me and she's like, you're fully licensed now. Will you provide supervision?
This is before you hung out the shingle?
Nope, this is after. I had to have my full license to hang out my shingle.
So they were very close together? Like, how often after you were on your own did you get that employee? That wasn't clear.
Couple months.
Yeah.
Couple months after I got my full licensure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. That's fast.
Yeah, it was very fast.
You're napping in the office, not sure.
Yeah.
And now you're bringing people under you.
And talk about imposter syndrome when you're like, I barely just got my full license and now I'm going to do this on my own.
That's why I wasn't following. I was like, wow, just 2 months later and you're... So you were out. You must have already had a full schedule for yourself.
No.
Okay.
Nope, I didn't. And that was the thing in the therapy world. When you leave, sometimes employers are like, if you say, hey, here's my 2-week notice, sometimes they'll say, no, you're done today because we want your clients to stay here. And so then sometimes you'll have people call and they're like, hey, where'd Brittany go? We're not allowed to tell you, but would you like to book with one of our therapists here?
See.
So anytime you leave, you're not really sure if you're going to have a full caseload or if you're going to have anybody follow you.
Yes.
So luckily, I don't know how it happened, to be honest. I don't know how my caseload did fill. I think there was just such a need for therapy back then. And I don't know, YouTube did me well or something. I don't really know, but like the people came that needed to come.
Yeah.
But so this person had come and said, hey, would you provide supervision now that you're fully licensed? And I joked with her and I was like, I don't know that you want me to do that. I don't really know what I'm doing yet. But I was like, we could like have fun and learn together. And so I did provide her supervision. And during that time, she was like, hey, would you take me on part-time? I don't know if I want to do therapy full-time. I want to keep the safety net of my full-time job, but would you allow me to come on part-time? And it was the most beautiful balance because I knew she wasn't fully relying on me for everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I make some mistakes, if I can't figure out payroll or get the right payroll person on, then like what a bummer,
100%,
right?
yeah.
But like she has patience with this. So it was the most beautiful person. She's still with us today as well.
Great.
Yeah, she is.
Is she now full-time?
She's full-time now. Yeah, she came over full-time. But her name's Nicole and she's wonderful. But so that's what made it easier was having some grace built in to be able to do that. So we did it with Nicole and she was like, wow, this is really cool. Can I come over full-time? And I remember Len and I having a conversation. We were like, hey, this was all about finding work-life balance for Brittany. But what if we can help other people find work-life balance? And so that's kind of been the motto of Solace Counseling ever since of like, hey, are you looking for work-life balance? You pick your own schedule. There are requirements. You can't just like come in and leave as you want. This is a service-based industry. You need to provide a service. But like, how about you are an adult and you get to do it by picking your schedule and you figuring that out, and we'll support you in the back end. And we've just grown that way. And most of the people who join us have some form of value tied up in that, where they're like, hey, I would like that as well.
Well, that's because I was curious about your business I mean, that's my brain goes there. And with the last few minutes here, I guess that's what we'll explore a little bit. So, because it sounds like, you know, with the work-life balance being important, most people come on part-time first. Like, is that because they're all full-time now?
Yeah.
Like, how is it that you are expressing or living? Are you open to expanding more part-time? What's the least part-time somebody came on as? I mean, I myself as a serial entrepreneur, I'm always thinking like how you bring people on and bring them in and expand them and do all that stuff.
Yes. Almost everybody is full-time. We have just that one clinician who's part-time. Most people will come on full-time. We're at a point now where we can take like a little bit more risk. So our first employees, getting like a little bit more nitty-gritty, our first employees we paid on a split, meaning whenever money comes in, we'll give a portion of it to you. And that was very I don't want to say easy. It's highly compensated.
You still W-4'd them, or they must have been W-9 at that time? Were they contractors?
They were still employees. Yep. They were still employees. Yep. So, so that's what we did in the beginning, because then there wasn't this fear for me of like, how am I going to come up with this money on the front?
Yeah.
The model has now switched because we have a savings account now. It's not quite as scary. I mean, being a business owner is always scary. You're always taking risks.
But people don't realize it. People don't realize it. They look at they look at somebody who's hit multiple jackpots.
Yep.
And they go, oh, wow, I want to do that. And it's like, well, okay, but you're going to have to buy a lot of tickets.
Yep. That's exactly right. And you're looking at the high when I've had 4,000 lows, So like, if you want that high, you also have to endure all of the lows and the risks and the worry of like, I remember saying to my husband, am I going to bankrupt us? Am I going to lose us our house? And I meant it so seriously. Yeah. And we had little kids. And so anyways, that's how we started. Now we pay a salary model to clinicians. And we just have it set up where we don't require 40 openings a week or any of that stuff. We're just very strategic. We have a lot of policies on the back end of like, you have to commit to us in a service-based industry of this, and we will commit to you flexibility in your schedule. So it's a very different model than what most agencies are doing in our town, but we hire people who are able to do that. They commit and they stand true to their word, and they will give what they need to give to receive the benefits of what Solace can bring.
Are you currently looking for, are you always, so I talk about business, I talk about there being a spectrum. Mm-hmm. One that I talk about and I've experienced personally is looking for work and looking for workers, right? Like in real estate, dirty little secret, there's 700 listings and 1,000 realtors. Mm-hmm. Like we're all chasing the same 7,000 of us. Yep. We're always looking for work, right? If I had more work and I know what to do with, I could start a team tomorrow. Cleaning business that I ran for a long time, way other end of the spectrum, where if you hang out the shingle and you do good work, you'll get full up. Don't worry about it. Workers. That's why ultimately we quit the thing. We hated it because we went through like 90 people inside of 3 years just to fill like 3 positions. Yep. It was crazy.
Yep.
Where on the spectrum would you say counseling falls? Are you looking for work or workers or maybe both? Or
Yeah, I would say Solace Counseling specific versus like what the community is looking for.
Yeah.
There are huge wait lists for mental health care right now, which is so incredibly sad. I often say to our team, like, people are looking for a therapist like they're looking for a plumber. My water is leaking, get me in.
Really?
But when they call, we're like, hey, we'd be so happy to serve you. We'll see you in 3 months.
Wow.
People don't want to hear that. And
so why aren't you aggressively expanding? That sounds like money to me.
I can only handle so much. And we we take really good care of our clinicians. And so we bring on highly skilled, really professional people that really become like family. And I can't do that with 400 people or whatever. We're really at a area of business where I'm like, we're good with this size.
You don't want to grow?
I don't want to grow anymore.
You don't want to?
No, I don't.
I can't even imagine.
I don't want to grow anymore. We're at a point where like the leadership team is perfect. I don't want anything bigger. I don't want bureaucracy. Like I want us to be able to, one person say, hey, can this happen? And I say, yep, that sure can happen, and just go with it. So we are always...
You don't want to take off the cowboy hat.
No,
oh, man.
I don't.
We have so much that we could talk about. I'm glad to know you. I'm glad. I appreciate you came on. I think it's very interesting. I think your story is very interesting. And I think you're a great sounding person. But it's time. It's time. It's 55 after.
Yes.
We got to get to your music choice, which was and you asked me. You were so sweet because like my joke before I get on the show, I'm like, is there anything religious you want to talk about? Because we try not to talk religion or politics. And you're like, well, is a Christian song okay? Sure, it's fine. It's music. Music is music is music. As long as it's not, country is the one thing that kind of I don't care for. But why don't you tell me about the song and what it means to you?
Yeah, I think business ownership can feel very lonely and isolating.
Yeah.
And you feel like sometimes there's a lot of judgment of like, I want what you have. And that can feel lonely too, because it's like, you don't get it. If you're saying that, then you just don't get it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of difficulty getting up to this. So anyways, the song that I chose is a song that represents like we're never alone. It's a religious song, of course. So it's about God or Jesus or whoever you believe in, really whatever you believe in. And like you're just never alone in the fire. There's always somebody beside you, and that just feels less lonely to think of.
Well, that's a beautiful sentiment. Yeah, it's called Another in the Fire by Hillsong, and then in all caps, United. That's what it says. That's the name of the band. That's also the name of the YouTube account. So they must have meant it intentionally. I don't know why it's United, but there we are. Brittany, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciated having you on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Oh, one more last time, you need to plug yourself. Tell people how can they find you.
Yes,
It's been 3 weeks. I took 2 weeks off. Now I forgot how to do the show.
This is
Please,
what happens.
Plug yourself on the way out.
Yes, I'm Brittany with Solace Counseling. You can just Google Solace Counseling Fargo. You will get to our site. If you're looking for mental health services, there's a button just right on the website. You can schedule online, and we would be happy to serve you. We serve all of North Dakota. We provide telehealth and in-person services in Fargo and Bismarck. And
of course, I'm Conrad Fargo. You can find me anywhere you type in Conrad and Fargo. Brittany, I got one kind of a site that I've partnered with. They're kind of a small indie. Maybe you've heard of them. Amazon.com. Mm-hmm. Look, if you go there and you type in Conrad and Fargo, you could find and listen to the show right there. We're on Spotify. We're on the YouTubes. Anywhere that you can listen to podcasts, we're there. So please like, share, and subscribe. Now I thank you for being on the show. Now I thank everybody for listening. And now we listen to Another in the Fire. We'll see you all next week. Goodbye.